to see and hear that sermon. And he just keeps preaching it. The only thing John the Baptist had that most people want is fame. He's broke. He is living in the desert, but he is famous. People are coming from everywhere to hear him preach. That's why in John 3 it tells us that water had to be plentiful. It's not because it was immersion baptism. Yes, that's a principle the New Testament teaches, but it's telling us that there because it's helping us see that crowds were coming from so far around, water had to be supplied. He's famous. And then you get to John chapter 3, verse 25, and this debate arises. Verse 25 says, now a discussion arose. Now discussion is a good Baptist word. We don't like to talk about arguing. Some of your translations may say debate. Some of them may say argument. Argument's a good Presbyterian word. They get PhDs in that, Dusty. But anyway, so there's two sides to a concept. Are y'all with me? Arose between some of John's disciples and a Jew over purification. Now, purification, it may say ceremonial washing, cleansing. Let me be clear what that is. It's as oversimplified, but it gets the point across. What does every human being who's ever lived need to be washed, purified, cleansed of? Say it loud. Sin. This is about salvation. What are these two sides on how is a person saved, if I can say it in good Southern Baptist? Verse 26 says, and they came to John and said to him, Rabbi, he who was with you across the Jordan, to whom you bore witness. Who's that? Jesus. Remember, preacher asks a question, you ain't been listening 9 times out of 10, say Jesus or the Lord, okay? That's Jesus. Look, he is baptizing and all are going to him. John answered, well, before I read that, do you see our two sides on the debate? John is famous, right? But what's happening to his fame? They're saying, John, everybody's been coming to hear you is all of a sudden going to... The only thing John's got is fame, and where's that fame going? John can tell a lie here, I believe with all my heart. I believe John could say, what do you mean? I'm the Messiah. And at least for a moment in time, he would have been taken to at least Galilee. Herod the Great probably would have been pushed off the throne for at least a hot minute. And he would have been set up as Jewish royalty. Now, it wouldn't have lasted. Rome wouldn't have let it last. But the fame he's got, I think he could have done that. Even if not, John knows there's a decision. Take the credit or put the glory where it's due. And so he says this, following up this moment. Verse 27, John answered, a person cannot receive even one thing unless it's given him from heaven. You yourselves bear me witness that I said, I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him. The one who has the bride is the bridegroom. I love that he brings up wedding imagery. There aren't many more joyous occasions in Jewish life. Okay? If you've ever been to a Jewish wedding, I know we're careful with what we attend. We don't want to, we're supporting something that denies the Christ. But if you ever get to see the reception at a Jewish wedding, at least Google it. They have a ball. Okay? It is a blast. They're dancing. People are getting carried on chairs. We're smashing light bulbs and glass bottles. It's half bar fight, half religious, half fun, okay? It is what it is. They love weddings. And so John, the closest thing he can pull to relate to is that joy of a wedding. He says the bridegroom, the friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly at the bridegroom's voice. He's saying the church, God's people can rejoice. The Christ, the groom is here. And he goes, but I ain't the groom. But I am so glad he's here. And then he says this, therefore this joy of mine is now complete. This is one of those lines that gets overlooked so much. This joy of mine is now complete. Y'all, we have and we need to preach against the health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. It is one of the biggest heresies around today that is a wolf disguised in sheep's clothing that is out there. And I don't have to take time to name the preachers today. The concept that they preach, and you'll know them by their message, is that if you just do what God wants you to do, there's going to be money and health and all that junk, okay? They take Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and forget that Stephen happened. Let's put it that way, okay? But one thing we have lacked, very few people, John Piper is a good example of someone who has. One thing that we have forgotten as we have called out that heresy is to tell people there is joy in the midst of this. There is a joy this world cannot understand when we do what we're called to do, when we live on mission. I want you to consider what John is saying. Verse 30 is the super famous verse that everybody quotes and very rarely looks at the context of. Verse 30, he's saying, He must increase and I must decrease. You know what he's literally saying there? What's the one thing John had? And where's his fame going? John in verse 30 is literally saying, he has to be more popular even if it makes me less popular. He has to be made much of. He has to be glorified even if it means I give up the one thing I got. You see that? And how does John the Baptist feel about giving up the one thing he got? Verse 29, he says, the joy of mine is now complete. Y'all, when I think of joy, I do not think of giving up the last thing I got. Okay? When I think of joy, I think of my wife's cooking and me eating it when the calories don't count. Okay? When I think of joy, I think of being at a game and my favorite team winning on a last-second score and the whole thing just going crazy. That's the idea behind the word, by the way. I don't think of giving up the last thing I've got. It's the same concept of when Paul says he's content, which is a terrible translation of the word, but of persecutions and weaknesses and all those things there in 2 Corinthians 12. It's the same concept. He says, I'm glad in this. John says, you mean I have put the spotlight on Jesus? My joy is complete. If you're going to live out the call of the book of Hebrews, you've got to remember, one, He is delivering us by death or by miracle. He is delivering us and is with us. Two, you've got to remember that even on the days we suffer, there is joy. There is joy in laying down your last thing you have to give when it puts the light on Jesus. Have you ever done something good just because it was the right thing to do and no one saw it and no one knows about it, but you just felt good because you did? We are wired to feel the joy of doing what we were created to do. And John 3:30 tells us that He has to be more popular, even if we have to be less popular. And John 3:29 tells us there's joy in that. Don't forget, there is a satisfaction this world cannot give with possessions, paychecks, and power. And it's the joy of doing what God's called us to do. The last thing I want you to see this morning, and I can't see a clock, so if I'm preaching close to Sunday school time, just wait. All right? I want you to see one more thing and we'll be done. It's in Mark chapter 16. Mark has a very interesting way of writing the Great Commission. He's different than other gospel writers. Now, I can't get too deep into text criticism this morning, but we can talk about that after if you got questions here. But Mark's hand stops writing at verse 8. And if you got questions about that, come ask me later. And so let's see what he says here in Mark 16. This is the morning they're going to find out Jesus is resurrected. It says, when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, bought spices so that they might go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb and they were saying to one another, who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb? And looking up, they saw the stone had been rolled back. It was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man. It's an angel, we know from other Gospels. It's okay. Quite often, by the way, angels are called men. They're not arguing with one another here, okay? Sitting on the right side, dressed in a white robe, and they were alarmed. And he said to them, do not be alarmed. That's always the first thing an angel has to tell people, since we've been talking so much about angels in Hebrews. Almost always the first thing they got to say is, don't freak out, okay? Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter that he's going before you to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you. There's a huge principle here. Women at the time were not accepted as witnesses. And he says, go be witnesses. God's with you. And he says, go tell them that Jesus is alive. And then the last thing he says on that is, tell them it's happening just like Jesus said it would happen. Now, Jesus came and died for our sins. His death bore our penalty. His resurrection gives us His perfection when we trust Him. And on that morning, it was God saying to the world from here on out, and for every saint who'd gone before, I have paid the price for you. And that's exactly what He had been saying He would do the whole Old Testament. It's exactly what Jesus said would happen when He walked on this earth over and over and over. He said, we must go to Jerusalem, I must die and rise again. And He tells these ladies, this angel says, go and tell the disciples it's happening just like Jesus said it would. The last thing He tells us in the book of Acts, Luke makes sure we want to hear that Jesus said it'll start in Jerusalem, go to Samaria, and then where? To the ends of the earth. And it's still going to the ends of the earth. It's happening just like Jesus said it would happen. Now, what does the angel tell these ladies to do with the fact that it's happening just like Jesus said it would happen? Verse 8. He tells them to go tell the disciples, and what do they do with it? Verse 8. And they went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. And that's how it ends. That's where Mark's hand stops writing. Okay? Why? He says, go tell, and it says they were afraid and didn't tell. This is a really cool way that Mark does the Great Commission. Because, see, when you have this gospel in your hand, and you read that as the last note, and you go, well, obviously they told somebody, and then you realize they had to overcome their fear. That's how He's meant for us to take this. Obviously they did tell somebody, even though they were afraid, even though at the first point they didn't want to tell anyone. It's happening just like Jesus said it would happen. Okay? So you go and you overcome your fear by the guidance of the Holy Spirit. That's where we stopped in Hebrews just a couple weeks ago, where it said, by gifts of the Spirit, you are gifted to share this gospel. It may not be in the same way as me. You may not be called to stand on a stage and talk. Listen to me. I've listened to some of you try. You're not. Okay? I'm not gifted to go take care of a project at somebody's house who needs to be loved on as a brother and sister, but some of you are. I'm not gifted to, I'm not even getting, do you know that I'm terrible when I go on missions? I know, the pastor, he's supposed to know all that stuff, right? I am so socially awkward. You drop me in another context and I lose my mind. My southern gets real thick. That's the only thing I got. And you can ask Ashley. She's seen me in England. They love to hear the accent, but I don't know what I'm telling them. Some of you are really gifted in that. God has gifted us all with gifts of the Spirit in different ways. But we are all on this mission to make sure the whole world knows it's happening just like Jesus said it would. Now, to do that, to do what Hebrews is calling us to do, because that is the big call of Hebrews, go do what God has called us to do, even if it means suffering. Okay? If we're going to do that, we need to remember that He is delivering us even on the days it's scary, even if it costs us our life. We need to remember that if it does cost us our life, if it takes the last thing we have, there is joy in pointing the glory His way, because it's what you were created to do. And it is joy that this world simply cannot give us. And you find the confidence to face those days when you just look around you that we are the ends of the earth. And the gospel has come here, and it is still going forth, and there's more work to do. But it's happening just like Jesus said it would. Go tell everybody in whatever way He's gifted you to tell them. Are you with me, church? Someone asked Dusty to come on up. What do you want me to do with this, Brother Walt? I want you to go tell somebody. You might do that by showing love to them in a time of hurting that gives you the chance to speak the gospel verbally. We are supposed to get to that point, okay? You may do that. God may have been calling you to seminary for years, and it's time for you to go learn. And that may be laying down a great job, okay? I know. God may have been calling you to volunteer in the kids group, or fix something at your neighbor's. I don't know, but we all have some way that He has given us the ability to love people and share the gospel through it. And there is joy in it. There's threat in it. But in the moments of threat, He's delivering you. And in the moments of joy, we know He's worth it. But we got to overcome whatever those fears are and go tell. It's happening just like Jesus said it would. If you're here and you're not a believer, you are the ends of the earth. And the fact that this gospel is being preached this morning in the randomness of South Mississippi, half redneck, half Cajun country world is proof it's going to the ends of the earth. Trust this Jesus that's in this gospel, because everything is happening just like He said He would. And yes, you could explain it away if you want to. He will not give you proof because He's called you to faith, and you cannot have proof and faith. But He's given you enough evidence to know that it's not a blind faith. And there's a whole lot you got to explain away if you don't trust Him, if you take this serious. So would you trust Him today if you never have? And if you're a believer, would you go tell everybody? Don't wait till your life gets cleaned up. Go tell. If God needed you to be perfect, if He needed us to be perfect to share the gospel, He wouldn't have called any of us. Don't wait until whatever. Go tell. It's happening just like Jesus said it would. Whoever you are this morning, would you stand and respond however the Lord leads?
No list of sins I have not done, no list of virtues I pursue, no list of those I am not like, can earn myself a place with you. Oh God, be merciful to me. I am a sinner through and through. My only hope of righteousness is not in me, but only you. No humble dress, no fervent prayer, no lifted hands, no tearful song, no recitation of the truth can justify a single wrong. My righteousness is Jesus' life. My debt was paid by Jesus' death. My weary load was borne by Him, and He alone can give me rest.
Faith family, thank you for being here again today. Y'all please come by and tell Dusty thanks for leading us this morning. Tyler, he's doing a revival, and you notice that nothing in your bulletin was right. That's because at Thursday, I was planning to preach Hebrews 2, and Tyler was planning to be here. And they called him, I think, Friday and started talking about being there this morning, and he didn't realize they wanted him there for the morning service too, and he called me in a little bit of a panic. So, Dusty, brother, we really appreciate you stepping in all the times that you have, but today especially. So, and we miss Tyler. We love him, but y'all especially give some thanks to Dusty today. We appreciate you stepping in. Thankmas is coming up December 6th. Pastor Matt mentioned it. If you're not listening, listen now, because this is some details. It'll be 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, okay? At 4 o'clock, we're going to have a meal. It's smoked ham, smoked turkey, I think some fried turkey. Phil had me confused on that part, but turkey and ham for sure. We need you to bring sides. That's what we said, right, Miss Carol? Okay. They need you to bring sides and come enjoy that. This is the event this year we're asking you to invite people who aren't plugged into a church or don't know Jesus to, okay? With me being sick, we didn't get to do our fall fellowship. That was on me. So WMU has come alongside what normally can be a fundraising event for international missions, and it's doubling up. This is when we want you to invite people. At 5 o'clock, we're going to show the movie The Star. It's a cartoon, but I promise, even if you're a grown man, you'll like it. It's cute, but it's one of those cutes you can enjoy, okay? And it's just a cartoon telling of the birth of Jesus, and it shares the gospel, okay, in it. So that'll be at 5. We'll close the night with the movie. The youth are going to have hot coffee and hot chocolate set up. You need to bring a chair, okay? Bring your lawn chair. If you are a gracious, loving person who has an extra chair, bring one for those of us like me who will probably forget, okay? But bring lawn chairs to be out there. Miss Teresa Mylar's lend us a popcorn machine. We'll have popcorn for the movie, but like I said, there'll be a whole meal before it. This is a time you can invite people. The other thing, this is going to be one of the first big times we ask for you to donate to Lottie Moon. Now, if you invite a guest, please tell them we don't expect them to make that donation, okay? This is just one of those opportunities where we're pushing you. We want you praying about that international missions offering, okay? We've tried to make this where instead of every month we're asking you for a different type of offering, we do this twice a year. One for North America, one for international missions. This sends missionaries around the world, okay? So pray about donating. We'll have envelopes in the pews for a few weeks, starting week after next. And you're going to have another chance with the Lottie Moon Bazaar the Sunday, not the 7th, but the next Sunday following that, where people make crafts and whatever and sell those back here, where you can come buy stuff, and that money goes to Lottie Moon, okay? Or you can just donate. So you've got chances coming up for that, and I want you praying about that, how you can give above your tithe, because this is an offering above that tithe that goes to send, prepare, and take the gospel around the world, okay? All right. Again, December 6th, 4 o'clock meal, 5 o'clock movie, fun night with your family, and hopefully invite some friends. We good? All right. I love y'all. I'm so thankful to be your pastor. Y'all have a good Sunday. Enjoy Sunday school.